And yeah, because I had a background working on the CAP, when the proposals came out, I volunteered to have a look at the proposals. So it's not just the CAP proposal itself, it's all the relevant proposals. And I am aware this looks a bit like a box on cigarettes. But yeah, the overall assessment is a mixed one. We do see potential, but we also see a lot of uncertainty. And there's definitely a lot of entryways, and there's a lot of points where, with a bit of improvement, we can make sure that there is something in there for diversification. We did frame the analysis. I will post the link to the full 29-page analysis in the chat later. We did frame it under protein diversification, but in general, it's not just protein. I mean, we support all kinds of plant-based foods, the development of all kinds of plant-based foods, and also support for farmers for all kinds of plant-based foods. So don't focus too much on protein. And then also in the analysis, we did not look at the school scheme, so the distribution of foods in schools. And we also did not look at promotion policy. It was really more on the production side of the CAP. Will not go into too much detail. Again, if you have more technical questions, you can always reach out. So just making sure I have the time. Maybe some new elements that are very positive, and it's the first time that they're there. There is a mention of diversification, and there is a mention of transition. So in the new environmental measures in the CAP, there is this idea to have a multi-annual transition scheme where farmers can apply. It's up to 200,000 euros per holding. They have to come up with a transition plan. And we did ask the Commission specifically behind closed doors, could this be used for a diversification plan or a move towards, sustainable plant production? And the Commission said yes. So we think farmers could use this to move into plant or plant protein production. Already a negative element here is that it is not clear what the procedure will be. It is not clear if it's going to be the same procedure in all the member states, and farmers will have to come up with a big transition plan. And they seem already overwhelmed, or they are already overwhelmed with administrative burden. So that's something we're a bit worried about, and we really ask policymakers to think of this to make it a really easily accessible measure and not something that will not be accessible in practical terms. And then also for diversification, if you go to the article on environmentally sensitive areas, there is a very nice proposal of the Commission that member states should offer diversification or extensification support to farmers in areas that suffer from nitrate surplus. This is good, but we would like to see this extended to areas that are at risk of nitrate surplus, not already, up to here in animal shit, if I pardon my French, but yeah, also that it can be a preventive measure. And we also fear a bit that extensification, which is good, we support this, of course, but we don't just want to pay farmers to produce less and to produce animals in another way, but we also want to offer them alternative business models. That's why really making sure that every farmer has access to diversification support is really crucial for us. Another positive element is on coupled income support. We're not huge fans of coupled income support as such, so that's money that goes specifically to one production. Of course, it is something that is here to stay, and it is even becoming more important in the next CAP. That's what the Commission wants. If it exists, then of course we would rather see it go towards plant productions. And there is the proposal that there is an increase for plant protein, that you can basically give more coupled income support if it goes to plant protein, which we are supportive of. But we also really say it's not enough to just support the production. You also need to think of the value chain afterwards. And the worst thing that can happen for a farmer is that they produce a crop that you've paid them to produce, and then they cannot sell it and they sit on it. That's also not ideal. And then just a small detail, there is a proposal for member states to set limits, livestock density limits for coupled income support. But the bad news is that it's not going to survive. It's probably not going to survive the negotiations, because even in the Environment Committee, it's already being taken out. So yeah. And then last positive point is the creation of a protein sector under the Common Market Organization regulation. So that would mean that member states would have to create a protein sector, meaning they have to recognize producer organizations and they have to propose what is called sectoral interventions. So that would mean support for stocking, investment support into processing infrastructure, all kinds of measures that already exist, for example, in the olive oil sector. But it will really help making the protein, what I said before, developing these value chains that would really help building this whole plant protein sector, which is what farmers are also asking us. And then their positive is that the parliament is very supportive, but member states are not so supportive because they don't want to have another mandatory sector to recognize. So to be continued. Just maybe, Alessandro, where am I on time?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay. The negative elements, I mean, as you probably all know and you've seen in the news, there was a lot of uncertainty around the budget. The whole new structure is the cap has been put into this national and regional partnership fund. It wasn't clear how much was exactly for the cap. Now we know member states will be able to define how much they want to give to the cap, but it will be in a struggle with other policies. And then also within the cap, there is no longer the two-pillar structure, which used to be the cap and then rural development. So there is a lot of uncertainty as to how much funding there will be for each measure, each type of measure. And on the farmer side, there is a lot of uncertainty, and that's not really helping like a constructive, debate and approach. And then feeding into that also is the flexibility that member states have in the Commission proposals. There is a lot of flexibility on the goal setting, but then also how the budget will be allocated and to what. And so we fear that there won't really be a common agriculture policy at this point in the next cap. Also, for example, on environmental measures. The last two really negative elements, the lack of environmental ambition, at least at the EU level, I already mentioned it. There is no ring-fenced funding. And then also there is really weakened rules on environmental protection. And there are a lot of measures that are supportive of diversification, for example, crop rotation, crop rotation has disappeared, but we also know that producing more plants and diverse plants and environmental protection go hand in hand. So a reduction of the environmental ambition is not really, where we want to go also. And then lastly, we were hoping to have a lot more protein diversification, like as a theme in the proposals, as an objective, or at least somewhere as a byline, but it's really not mentioned at all. And so we also don't know how the Commission's protein plan, which is supposed to come out on July 7th, how it will interact with the cap that is already on the table. Okay, very quickly, main recommendations. I already mentioned them, extending the diversification scheme, really focusing on transition, diversification for the transition schemes and also the young farmer program. We want to also have, of course, for investment support, like really focus on diversification and plant production. Coupled payments I already mentioned. We want to focus on plants as well. And then my personal favorite is talking to farmers. There is no advice for farmers that want to diversify or that want to go to plant production. There is, but it's like private organizations, it's NGOs. So we would like to have the state, the official advisory services providing a diversification check, like when you want to move to organic, but you can go there and say, I want to produce more plants, I want to produce protein crops, what can I do on my farm? And this is something that we would love to see in all 27 member states. And then maybe last point here, it is in the making to have a specific article on protein crops. It's now called the Protein Starter Pack. This is something that is being worked on in the Parliament, which would be a listing of all the schemes and all the measures for protein crops, just to give it more visibility And this is something that we're hopeful will make it at least in the Parliament's position. And yes, I think this I can kind of skip. It's kind of self-explanatory. And the main messages were already kind of in what I said, so I can also skip. Maybe just 30 seconds. You will all get an invite, or you will see on our social media. We are hosting an event at the European Parliament on June 24th in the presence of Commissioner for Agriculture, Christoph Hansen, because after doing this analysis, we realized we really need to go talk to farmers on what they need. So this is what we did. We interviewed 30 farmers together with plenty of member organizations, including our members, and we will present this report and kind of the lessons and the recommendations from this report at the Parliament. And yeah, it's open to anyone who's interested. Thank you so much.